Hello and welcome to Best Top 5. I'm Best Guy, and this is a new segment here on Dropping Loads. Basically, we're going to sum up TV shows, movies, entertainment into a top 5 list. For today's episode, we're going to be going over the torture porn genre. What is the torture porn genre? Good question. Torture porn was first coined.
Is it food porn?
What the fuck has it to do with torture, man? Well, unless you're eating like a Taco Bell, that's torture. Ever eaten at Taco Bell? This shit sucks. Torture porn was first coined by a reporter in 2005 after he saw Hostel. It was considered very graphic, nonsensical violence according to this reporter. So films from 2003 all the way to 2010 are considered torture porn, at least in the terms of horror, extreme horror violence. Number 5 is a film that came out in 2003 and it was directed by Mel Gibson. And if you're thinking about The Beaver, you're not wrong, because that film was fucking torture. Did you see fucking Beaver?
No,
fucking suck.
Passion of the Christ. Is that
That's
torture porn?
is considered torture porn. Why is it considered torture porn? Well, if you look at it, Jesus Christ is being beaten to death. That is actually torture. What do you say? That's torture.
And you can jerk off to it.
So that's porn.
Yes, there you go. Oh, number 5 is Passion of the Christ. Passion of the Christ literally just concentrates on the last 12 hours of Jesus Christ with no story whatsoever other than Christ being beaten to death. You might say, and a lot of religious people might say, that this film actually depicts a very realistic view of what Christ went through. It is very graphic. This is not the type of film that you go, hey, let's grab some popcorn and watch Passion of the Christ. Not really. Number 4 is a French-Canadian film called Martyrs. Martyrs tells the story of two girls who were... This is hard to describe because this film is very, very graphic. These girls were kidnapped, brutally beaten, and raped. And this is not a subject matter that you easily talk about, but the film does it in a stylistic and very graphic way that you're very uneasy when you watch this film. You just don't know what's going to happen next. And while you think that you know what's going to happen next, you don't. This film just keeps getting more and more over the top in a very graphic way. This is one of the few torture porn films that is not just gore thrown at the screen, which is why it was labeled torture porn, because it was just gore for the sake of gore. Like Passion of the Christ is just gore for the sake of gore. You might disagree, but that's just my opinion. But with Martyrs, there's actually a really good story. A story that may make a lot of people uncomfortable, and maybe you may not like it, but you cannot disagree that this film is very, very, very graphic. Number 3 is also a French film, not a French-Canadian film, there's a French film called High Tension. High Tension, I do not want to tell too much of the story because there's a lot of twists and turns. Just by telling you the plot and synopsis alone will throw you off from watching this film. It also involves rape, and it also involves a lot of graphic nature, and if this turns you off from watching the film, I'm sorry, but the movie itself is very well shot, has a lot of good cinematography, a lot of good editing, that you don't really see in these graphic films. Usually they will either pull away or they'll concentrate way too much. There's not a good balance. This film balances very, very well. And again, there's a good twist. Don't go on IMDb and don't watch the trailer. Just watch the film and decide for yourself whether you like this film or not. For number 2, I'm choosing a film which is the movie that got coined as the torture porn film, the number 1 torture porn film. But I'm putting it in this number 2 spot. And that film is Hostel, directed by Eli Roth. The film, when it was released, it was considered just a film just to show gore and violence for the sake of showing gore and violence with no little to any plot. When first released, the film was under a lot of controversy because it depicted Eastern Europeans as just people who use a lot of drugs and they want to kidnap foreigners. And of course, that's completely false, and it's only a movie. Yes, it is very graphic, but there is a story to it. When you watch it, you'll see that there's a lot of cool things happening, a lot of quick, twists and turns. And this is a type of movie that either you like it or you hate it. I personally like it. I still think it holds up very well today. The sequel, also directed by Eli Roth, is good. Stay away from the third one. The third one is terrible. And for number 1, if you haven't guessed it, is a movie that came a year before it, and that movie is Saw. Saw is probably the most popular film from the subgenre of the torture films, because it actually had how many sequels? 6 sequels, 7 films in total, and not many people remember any of the other films in the torture porn genre, but they all remember Saw. So much so that it escaped to be known as a torture porn film, but rather just a horror film. Reason why it's number one is because it's not only is it graphic, it also has a very good story and has one of the best twists in film history. Stay away from trailers, stay away from the IMDb descriptions. Just watch the film. Very, very good. So let me know what you thought about this top 5 list. If there aren't any films that you think that I didn't mention, please leave it in the comments down below. Please click like and subscribe. So that was the top 5 torture porn films. I'm Vest Guy, and this was Vest Top 5.